Our next story is about the India-US relationship. Is there trouble in paradise? They've had a fabulous run in the last decade. The relations went from strength to strength. But is there a slowdown now? I'll tell you why I ask. The Pannu assassination case has a new development. And we've covered this story before. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is a Khalistani separatist. He's based in the city of New York. The US says there was a plot to assassinate him. By whom? Well, according to them, India. Last year, they charged an Indian citizen in this case. His name is Nikhil Gupta. Gupta was arrested in Prague last year. He's now been extradited to the United States. Right now, he's in a jail in Brooklyn. And what happens next? Gupta will be produced in front of a court. I'm sure investigators will question him, and based on his testimony, a case will be built. Now, Gupta's role is key. He's a bit like the middleman. The US says that Indian officials used him to hire a hitman. So what he says, what Gupta says, will be important both legally and diplomatically. India has already rejected these allegations. An internal probe is also underway, but we won't focus too much on the legal case in the US. That's for the Americans to figure out. Tonight, let's focus on the politics. How will this case impact relations? Well, a senior US official is visiting India as we speak. His name is Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor. Sullivan held some important meetings today. He met his Indian counterpart Ajit Doval, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and finally Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He met all of them. Now, Sullivan is like Biden's troubleshooter. He gets the difficult stuff done. In fact, Jake Sullivan was the first to raise this issue with India. It happened back in August 2023. Saudi Arabia was hosting a summit on the Ukraine war. Some 40 countries attended this summit. Doval and Sullivan met on the sidelines. That's the first time when Washington raised the issue of Pannu, the assassination plot. And now Jake Sullivan is back. So just look at the timeline. On June 14th, Nikhil Gupta was extradited to the US. On June 17th, Jake Sullivan landed in India. The question is, what happens next? Will this episode affect India-US relations? Let's put this whole thing in context. 2023 was a great year for this relationship. Biden invited Modi to Washington for a state visit. The US also agreed to share strategic technology with India, like jet engines and killer drones. But beneath the optics, some issues remained. One was India's ties with Russia, its refusal to criticize Moscow's invasion. And second, the lectures. The US has repeatedly commented on India's internal matters, like the violence in Manipur or the arrest of Delhi's chief minister. But India was not swayed. The government confidently brushed the lectures aside. In that context, the Pannu plot is a gift for Washington. They can use it to put pressure on India. Of course, a lot of this is conjecture. Whether the US is actually doing it is a different question. Nonetheless, how should India deal with this case? Well, there are two parts to it. The first is containing this particular case, whether it's coordinating with the Americans or sharing information or keeping the investigation low-key, not making a spectacle out of it. And leadership will matter in this effort. Prime Minister Modi did have a meeting with Joe Biden in Italy. It was not a full-fledged bilateral. It was a short pull-aside, not enough to discuss such major issues. And another key meeting may not materialize anytime soon because Biden is now entering campaign season. His full focus will be on domestic US politics, which brings us to the second strategy: better messaging on Khalistan. Indians know how dangerous this movement is. Unfortunately, the rest of the world does not know, or if they do, they don't agree or acknowledge, especially countries in the West. They have become breeding grounds for Khalistanis. So India must combat it smartly. Sharp and loud reactions have not helped very much. So maybe India should try some quiet diplomacy now, like sharing more information on Khalistani terrorists. Also narrative building, raising the issue at UN bodies, and educating foreign citizens on this threat. It certainly won't be easy. The West thinks that Khalistanis are dissidents or critics. India must show them that Khalistanis are not dissidents, they are violent separatists and terrorists, and this should be a major priority for the new government. If not, the gains of the last decades could be lost.